Joker came out on October 4th, 2019. I went to see it about a week after that, which at the time of recording was 2 days ago. I didn't really have much intention of seeing it originally. My thoughts about it were things like, do we really need another movie with the Joker? Is that all DC has to offer? Isn't this kind of a dead horse? A movie about the Joker's backstory? I thought the whole thing about him is that he doesn't have a backstory, that he's nameless and mysterious. But in the following days after release, an abundance of people on social media and a few of my friends were talking about how amazing the movie was, how it was perfection from start to finish. Those are some pretty bold claims. Over the past few years, I've found that I usually disagree with the general population about which movies are good or bad. If the wisdom of crowds thinks a movie is amazing, I usually find that it's awful. And if the populace hates it, I usually really like it. I don't think I'm trying to be a contrarian. I just think there might be a problem of people feeding off the opinions of others without forming their own. So the general consensus is decided by the few most influential people that discuss that movie. Well, because everyone seemed to be in love with this movie, I wanted to see for myself what the hype was all about. So, this is a review of Joker. I haven't watched any reviews, or really even talked to anyone about the movie, so the content of this video will probably be unrefined, but also uncorrupted. There will be spoilers. If you haven't seen the movie and don't want it spoiled for you, add this video to your watch later list and go see the movie first. I'll say up front, I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was well made. It didn't rely on CGI, lots of action sequences, nudity, or even practical effects. It carried itself entirely on the quality of the acting and the writing, which is refreshing and unusual for a comic book movie. Walking back to my car after the movie, my girlfriend said to me, his poor mom, evil Thomas Wayne fucked her and then made her crazy so he wouldn't have to deal with it. And it was at this moment when I realized maybe there was something more to the movie. There was already something to the movie, but the interpretation that my girlfriend had didn't even exist for me until she said it. I had thought the movie made it very clear that Penny Fleck was really just crazy, and Thomas Wayne was being honest about that. The fact that someone else didn't think so made me wonder if that was intended, if you were supposed to doubt the adoption story. It's not that any directly given information would make you doubt it, but the overall message of the movie might. And that's why it's so interesting. The scenes themselves seem to show that Thomas Wayne is trustworthy, but the movie's anti-rich theme suggests otherwise. This one thing my girlfriend said struck me with how effectively the philosophy of the Gotham underclass seeped out of the movie and into the audience's mind. This is probably the biggest reason the movie works. It does what all art is trying to do. It successfully makes you feel a certain way. You sympathize with Arthur, and you feel for the anarchist mobs rebelling against the system. The movie does a good job at making you feel uncomfortable. While watching Arthur laugh uncontrollably, while Arthur is making a fool of himself while attempting to be funny or cool or charming, it hurts. Few movies I've watched have made me hate the world as much as Joker did, which is exactly the mindset Joker has. Even if his particular mental issues aren't something you can relate to, you can still relate to his character as a whole. The writing, cinematography, and direction all play a big part in making that happen, I'm sure. But the most noticeable element is Joaquin Phoenix's acting. The last Joaquin Phoenix movie I've seen was Her, where he also did a fantastic job. But in Joker, it was something else. The first time you see Arthur laugh crying when talking to his therapist was extremely impressive. It was immediately clear that he was crying, but he wasn't. He did this all throughout the movie, and he made a series of disturbing throat noises, like he's having difficulty breathing and he's filled with phlegm. Just physically, those things are hard to do. He also showed serious commitment to the role by losing so much weight. You can see it in his face from the beginning if you're familiar with what Joaquin Phoenix's face normally looks like, but you can fully appreciate his weight loss the first time he takes off his shirt. And it's not just about physical commitment. His delivery of lines and emotions was spot on. His portrayal of the character was creepy, but also sympathetic. This movie provides a different take on the character of the Joker than usual. Rather than simply being insane and thinking everything is hilarious, He's depressed and really only laughs as a result of an abnormal condition. He's not even funny. I was initially worried about giving the Joker a backstory, but it worked surprisingly well. He's trying to be a stand-up comedian. He's trying to follow the rules of society and take the regular path up to success. But a lifetime of failure and being an outcast has made him bitter. His desire for chaos seems to be justified, since order has served him so poorly. You can assume the same thing of Heath Ledger's Joker or Mark Hamill's Joker, but you don't really know, and you didn't see it happen. At first, I thought the form the movie's theme or message was taking was that his mental health problems and his failed life were self-inflicted. His mom had written to Thomas Wayne. She'd worked for him before and thought that if he knew their living conditions, he would help them out. She writes to him again and gives Arthur the letter to mail. I thought he was going to throw the letter away, and that it would turn out he threw the previous letter away as well. So it seemed like the message was leaning towards something like, quit victimizing yourself and make something of your life without blaming other people for your shortcomings. Which would be a message that I don't think most people nowadays would take very well. But that's not how it turned out. Arthur didn't throw the letter away. He read it, and the message of the movie ended up becoming fatalistic. The Joker was doomed to disenfranchisement and isolation from an early age because his environment broke him. If you believe Thomas Wayne caused Penny's madness, then the Joker's mental health issues are Thomas Wayne's fault, which makes the movie even more antagonistic of the rich than it already is. It becomes purely a class struggle. If you believe that Penny was already crazy, then the message is, in my opinion, even more depressing. You didn't choose your problems, and you can do nothing about them. Of course, the class struggle is still there. Gotham shuts down support for mental health clinics. The movie demonstrates clearly a divide in mindset between successful and unsuccessful people. Typically, people that have found success don't want to deny themselves of any credit. They attribute their success to hard work, determination, self-improvement, and taking responsibility for oneself. They view those that are unhappily unsuccessful, such as Arthur Fleck, as self-pitying and self-defeating. They blame their attitude for their failure. You can see this in the reaction Murray Franklin and Thomas Wayne have to Arthur. People like Arthur, low class and struggling, often blame the system for their struggles. They think they got dealt a bad hand and life has treated them unfairly. The social and governmental system doesn't care about them. For the upper class, the deciding factor is internal, and for the lower class, the deciding factor is external. But who's right? Well, they both are. But both are also wrong. A long chain of positive events can make you blind to the negative, and vice versa. Once you've risen to the top, it's easy to forget that it wasn't just through sheer strength of character that you got there. Once you've sunk to the bottom, it's easy to forget that you let it happen, at least partially. The recipe for success isn't just about luck or favoritism, as the lower class would like to believe. And it's not just about effort and determination, as the upper class would like to believe. It's about both. Though, in the case of the corrupt and sliding into chaos Gotham, the system is set against you more than usual. Even if life is treating you unfairly, you still have to take responsibility for at least some of your failure. Which sounds depressing, but the bright side is that means there's also something you can do about it if you try. And really, this movie does show that, though in a twisted but oddly satisfying way. Nobody noticed Arthur until he killed 3 rich assholes, which, by that point in the movie, you sympathize with Arthur, making it very hard to feel bad for those 3 guys. Something about watching Arthur get beat up so many times, literally and metaphorically, makes you feel like they deserve it. Where normally you'd be rooting for the kid limping away from a psychotic killer, you're rooting for the killer, because the killer is the real victim. With this message, it's easy to see why there was a concern about a shooting happening at the movie's premiere. Another reason the movie works is the score. The ambient background pulse, accompanied by a slow, methodic timpani and a sad violin while Arthur is being beaten up in the beginning of the movie, really set the tone for a tragic downward spiral. The rest of the score has a similar sound, foreboding and depressing, but beautiful. The selection of pre-existing music for the movie is quite fitting as well. Songs like That's Life and Send in the Clowns by Frank Sinatra and Put on a Happy Face by Tony Bennett, they give the movie an old school, kind of anachronistic vibe, which is how Gotham has always been. Gotham's got something of a timelessness to it, a strange amalgamation of modern technology, 1920s architecture and atmosphere, and a 1940s crime scene. The movie achieves a similar effect. The era seems to be something like the 70s, nostalgic of the 20s, while sometimes feeling modern. Gotham has also always been a corrupt and dirty city. This movie is set at what seems like the beginning of Gotham's decline, which makes Arthur's descent into madness all the more understandable. The world he inhabits really is corrupt. All this made me realize how shitty of a superhero Batman really is, or how shitty of a person Bruce Wayne really is. He's a billionaire and has two personas. With his Bruce Wayne identity, he portrays himself as a kind of dim-witted playboy who does nothing but attend social events and picks up chicks. He does this to prevent anyone from suspecting that he might be Batman. If he showed everyone how he's one of the smartest men in the world and is a master of all fighting styles, it might become obvious that he's Batman. And what does he use his Batman persona to do? To beat the criminals of Gotham into a pulp. To use fear and force to deter them from breaking the law. Sure, he doesn't kill people, but he only helps people as a reactive disciplinary measure, not as a proactive incentives measure. He would be much more effective at stopping crime if he focused on cleaning up political, bureaucratic, and economic corruption at the source instead of the symptoms of that corruption. One thing about Joker that had me puzzled and took me out of it at times was the age of Arthur. I don't know how old he's supposed to be, but Joaquin Phoenix is 44 years old, and Arthur looks quite old, probably due to his mental and physical health issues. But even if Arthur is 10 years younger than that, 34, he's much older than Bruce Wayne is. This would mean that when Bruce grows up and actually becomes Batman 16 years later, the Joker is 50 and has been the Joker for 16 years without Batman to thwart him. It just seems odd to me that the Joker would be so much older than Batman. Though I suppose this is just something you have to forgive for practical reasons. You've got to imagine that Arthur is younger than he seems so that it makes more sense. They just wanted Joaquin Phoenix, and if the timeline is a little weird because of it, then that's the price they're willing to pay. And fair enough, having Joaquin Phoenix was worth it. Aside from Arthur finding out he's Thomas Wayne's son, but then not, or maybe he still is, there were a few other twists in the movie, though one of them wasn't set up well enough to really serve its purpose as a twist. Throughout the movie, and pretty early on, like when Arthur watches the Murray Franklin show, it's established that Arthur daydreams a lot. In his mind, he's charming and personable and funny and endearing. In reality, he's a bit creepy and awkward and prone to nervous breakdowns, though he is often kind-hearted. He meets Sophie and her kid on the elevator in their apartment complex, and tries to be funny and friendly by mimicking the shooting herself in the head hand gesture she does, but then he follows her for a day. This establishes that he's interested in her, among other things. So right now in the recipe, we've got a main character that daydreams and is interested in a girl. That's enough to lightly foreshadow a twist without the audience thinking of it quickly enough. Where they go wrong, and a moment that felt purely odd to me, is when Sophie confronts Arthur about him following her. She confronts him, at first a bit angry and weirded out and maybe afraid, and then that shifts on a dime to her being charmed by him, agreeing to go see his stand-up routine. It was extremely unrealistic. And from then on, I suspected that every time Sophie showed up after that, she wasn't real. That maybe she was a corpse in her apartment, or never existed to begin with. So when the movie reveals that he doesn't have a relationship with her and it was all in his head, it wasn't a surprising moment. It was still effective in further portraying Arthur's insanity, but it didn't achieve all it was trying to achieve. A comparison that comes to mind is the revelation near the end of Fight Club, when you find out that Tyler Durden doesn't exist, and the main character has had split personalities this whole time. That was an extremely effective moment, probably because the entire plot hinged on it. In Joker, the entire plot wasn't hinged on his relationship with Sophie. It was just a piece. So it makes the twist less important, and the less important the twist, the more okay it is to not be an effective twist. Another twist happens in the movie's climax. In multiple scenes beforehand, the movie was setting up the audience to expect Arthur to kill himself live on the Murray Franklin show. I didn't actually expect him to kill himself, because he's the Joker, but I expected him to at least try. What's great about this twist is that it doesn't really happen all at one moment. You might not have expected him to shoot Murray in the face at the beginning of the scene, but as the scene progresses, you can feel the mounting tension. You can feel the plans changing from, I'm going to kill myself, to, I'm going to kill Murray Franklin. It's engaging and rewarding to watch this unfold. And it makes sense. With everything that's been set up about the character so far, it fits perfectly. He's already killed 5 people, so there's no question he's capable of more killing. And it's the most meaningful murder he's committed. Sure, killing your own mom is pretty meaningful, but Murray Franklin was his personal hero and role model. There's something interesting and deeply disturbing, but also satisfying about killing your heroes. It's the rejection of everything you used to want to become. It's killing your ideal. It's killing God. It's really the utmost evil you can manage. But at the same time, maybe it's not. Arthur realizes something about Murray that makes him want to kill him. He realizes that his hero is a bad person. He makes fun of the downtrodden. He kicks those that are down. And for what? Just to make himself look even better? He realizes that his hero isn't his hero anymore. He realizes that what he was worshipping before is evil, so he kills it. And I suppose it's up to you to agree or disagree. To think that his ideal did turn out to be evil, or to think that his new ideal is evil. Or both. Either way, the Joker does seem to be the hero of the downtrodden. At least the people of Gotham seem to think so. He kills the rich and the entitled, the brutes and the liars, and he spares the kind and the genuine. A striking moment in the movie is when he kills Randall, the clown who gave him the gun in the beginning of the movie. Randall put forth a facade of kindness and camaraderie, but really plotted to get Arthur fired. He was a false friend. When he shows up with Gary at Arthur's house, Arthur kills him. But Arthur tells Gary he can go. And there are a few moments when you think it might just be a cruel trick, that he's going to kill Gary too, and he's just toying with him. But he does actually let Gary go. He kisses him on the head and says that Gary's the only one who's ever been nice to him. Another scene that does seem to have attracted attention is the bathroom dancing scene. People might find it interesting because it's just after he kills 3 people, he runs into a bathroom, and I suppose what you might expect is for him to wash the blood off, try to think of a plan, and maybe cry. Instead, he dances. To me, this wasn't absurd. Arthur likes dancing, and it seems like it's therapeutic to him. It's his form of meditation, or yoga. So by dancing in the bathroom, I didn't take it as a celebration of his murders. I took it as him trying to clear his mind and remain calm. His dancing is very slow and measured. It looks more like he's harnessing his chi than anything. There is one more thing I want to say about the climax. After Arthur admits to the triple murder in the subway to Murray, Murray questions him about why he did it. He asks what he stands for. Arthur says he doesn't stand for anything. But this is clearly untrue and contradictory, because a sentence or two later, he says he killed them because they were assholes and they deserved it, which would mean he does stand for something. He had a reason for killing them, aside from self-defense and self-preservation. He had a reason for killing Murray, and it was the same reason. They're selfish assholes who don't give a shit about the lower class or those who are struggling with mental health issues or poverty. After Arthur shoots Murray in the face, he gets arrested, and Gotham is in chaos. All the oppressed people of Gotham that were previously inspired by the subway triple murder have taken to the streets to rebel against the system after witnessing the Joker kill Murray Franklin live on his own show. Some rebelling citizens help free Arthur, and he stands up to a crowd of people cheering for him. Then he dances. This dance seems much more celebratory. Joker does seem to have a very subversive message. The cheering crowd of chaos at the end is something many people in modern society can relate to. The desire to destroy, to burn down the system because of its corruption, its greed, its falseness, the call to anarchy, to dismantle the system even if you don't have a better one to replace it. The idea that chaos is better than tyranny or oppression. It speaks to the psyche of the young male. Everyone wants to feel appreciated. They want to be a part of something. But this seems to be especially true for males in their 20s. They crave life direction or purpose. They crave action and danger. This is why so many of them join the army. It's not because they're patriotic. They want to kill people, or they want some direction. They want to be part of something bigger than themselves. They want to test themselves and live life on the edge. They want to be part of a functioning, fair system. When the system is not functioning or fair, it doesn't value the work they do. It doesn't provide them with opportunities or direction. so destroying the system becomes very attractive. It provides them with danger and opportunity and a great test. Funnily enough, it provides them with structure. I don't view this message as a bad thing. I also don't view it as really a good thing. It's important to call out a system for its flaws and to expose injustice, but it's also important to think of solutions to that, which the movie doesn't, unless killing people is a solution. After that, the Joker ends up in Arkham. I'm not sure how. I'd like to know how the gigantic amount of unrest in Gotham was put down, and how Arthur was captured, as it seems like there would be hundreds of people willing to prevent that from happening. But I suppose it is fitting. He's the Joker, and the Joker always ends up in Arkham Asylum, only to break out again.